everyone. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I decorate my rustic winter woodland themed Christmas tree, including how I take a regular green Christmas tree and make it look flocked. I use a 7-foot artificial slimline tree for this, and for this theme, I like to use a lot of natural elements, including pine cones, the flocking, firs, animals, and then, of course, incorporating lots of earth tone colors, so browns and beiges and creams and green. Please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. It's really helpful to know what kind of videos you guys enjoy seeing. And also, just as a heads up, I am filming this video in my home, and I'm not a professional YouTuber, so I don't have fancy lighting or sound equipment, so please just bear with me as I realize the lighting will probably change throughout the day as I'm decorating, and I know that there's a little bit of an echo in here, but I don't really have a good way to dampen that sound, so I really hope you'll just stick with me and go ahead and watch the video. Now, I want to mention, to get a fabulous looking Christmas tree, you don't have to spend a lot of money. Most of the items on this tree came from At Home, Hobby Lobby, and even Amazon. And I did get a few items from Pier 1 on clearance right before Christmas last year. As a matter of fact, that's how I came to have this green Christmas tree, even though I knew I wanted to have a flocked tree for this space. A couple of days before Christmas, I was out shopping and I found the perfect 7-foot artificial slimline tree at an incredible price, less than $40. And I decided no problem, I could still work with it and make it look flocked for a lot less money than buying a flocked tree. Because flocked trees can be pretty expensive, at least to get one of the really natural, good-looking ones. And so what I found is a great way to take a green tree, make it look flocked for a lot less money than if I would have just bought the flocked tree. As I mentioned, this is an artificial tree, and I prefer to work with artificial trees, first of all because you can get them pre-lit, so bonus there, but also I just find that I like the control of the branches and the uniformity, and they're less messy, so it's just easier for me to work with. But now let's go ahead and get started, and I will explain to you how I take a regular tree and turn it into a rustic winter woodland themed Christmas tree, including how to make it look flocked. Now, the first step that I like to take is to get everything out, both the decorations and all the adornments and things that you're going to use on or with the tree, but also any of the supplies that you're going to use to help affix things to the tree, etc. The reason I like to go ahead and get everything out first and kind of have it lined up is, if you're like me, first of all, it's just easy to forget within the 10 or 11 months between having the Christmas tree taken down and when you put it back up. But also, I have a tendency to buy a lot of stuff after Christmas that may or may not make it onto the tree. I like to take advantage of sales and get stuff on clearance. And so sometimes I buy stuff that didn't make it onto the Christmas tree last year, and I might forget about it. So I want to take stock of everything that I have before I start putting things on the tree to make sure I have the right strategy. And as I mentioned, make sure you have all of your supplies handy. So your ornament hooks, things that you're going to use to affix to the tree, timers, extension cords, etc. Because that'll just make it a lot easier that when you're decorating, you don't have to stop and go hunt around the house and look for things. This is actually my decorating kit that I put together, and I do have a separate video on what all I like to keep in my kit. It's got some helpful tips and items that you might not have thought to use when you're decorating, and so I'll link that video below in case you're interested in checking that one out next. The next step includes prepping the tree. This includes getting it out, setting it up, fluffing it, adding lights, whatever you need to do, but you want to have it all the way set up before you start adding ornaments, tree toppers, etc. So since I have a 7-foot tree, a general rule of thumb is about 100 lights per every foot of tree that you have. Now, obviously that can depend on your own personal taste, and also whether you have a really wide tree or a really slim tree. I typically find that even with pre-lit trees, they don't come with enough light, so I like to add my own. This tree came with 450 lights, but I do add about 300 lights additional to the tree. And since I'm adding lights, what I like to do is actually add some twinkle lights, and I'll run this a little bit on the interior of the tree, and that way not only will it add additional brightness to the tree, but it'll also give the tree a nice twinkle effect. So these I actually got from Amazon. They're LED, which means they don't get hot, they don't lose a lot of don't use a lot of energy, and they shouldn't burn out anytime soon. And these are really cool because they have a lot of different functions. So if you don't want the twinkle setting, you certainly don't have to have that. You can also turn it to solid, more of a flashing, more of a, dimming, strobing effect. They've just got all sorts of different functions. And so I really like to add these. And what I do is I start fluffing my tree, and it's really important when you fluff that you are fluffing every single branch. So you really need to touch pretty much every single branch and splay those tips out, because that's going to make your tree look the most full. And I do that row by row, and as I'm doing that, if I need to add lights, that's when I add lights. Row by row, I'm adding those lights. The other thing that I do before I even get started is I do plug everything in and make sure everything is working, because experienced decorator tip, if you don't check everything out, it's a lot harder to find issues once the tree is already up than when it's all laid out on the floor. So that is another important step for me. But so now I'm going to get started with fluffing and adding these lights, and then we'll be ready for our next step. One thing that I neglected to mention is the twinkle lights that I added were one strand of 300 lights that were 105 feet. So just to give you an idea how many lights I used or how long that was, all for one 7-foot slimline tree. So the next step for this tree is now I'm going to start working with it to make it look flocked. And so the way that I do that is by taking a flocked garland that I picked up, and I'm going to cut this into smaller pieces with my wire cutters, and I'm going to nestle that in different places along the tree. Now, I did do this last year, and so I have some pieces that are already cut, but I did just want to show you what the garland looks like that I used all put together. So since I had bought an extra one, this is what it looks like all together. So for this tree, I used 2 6-foot flocked garlands, and so that just gives you an idea of the amount that I used. And then I do have a couple of additional picks and stems and things that also are flocked that I can use to fill in some places. So that's the amount that I use. I will link to a very similar version of this on Amazon. It's not the exact one that I have, but it is another really good version. The reason that I like this one is because it has different types of branches, and the snow is, there's a couple of different types of snow used to flock it. So it gives it a very natural, real kind of effect. And this is really a great option for those that maybe already have a green tree and want to change the theme or make it look flocked. So you can do this to an existing tree as you're seeing here. So each of my sections are somewhere between 12 and 18 inches or so each. And the reason I did that is really just because this was a more manageable amount to work with than trying to wrap one long garland around the tree. Something to keep in mind when you're working with flocking is it is going to get everywhere, so just resign yourself to you're going to make a mess. In hindsight, probably wearing black was not a good idea for this video, but that's okay. So we'll start adding this into the tree. And remember that when trees get snowed on, how that happens, that's what you're trying to mimic. So we're basically putting this in kind of on the shelves of the tree, if you will. So I want it a little bit on the outside because that's where the snow would hit. I don't need to get it all the way in, so I don't need to put it in this way. This might be the tempting thing to do, but actually I'm putting it on like this because only the outermost part really needs the flocking because that's where the snow would hit. I'm just using the individual layers of the tree to help dictate where I want to put these. And I don't have to get it perfect and make sure that there's absolutely no gaps because I do have the shorter pieces, as I mentioned, that I can just kind of tuck into the places that need it. So now I've got a pretty good start of having the flocked garland interspersed all throughout the tree. I still have a few small pieces, but I'm gonna wait until I do the tree topper and put the rest of the ornaments on to see where those need to go, because I may find that I need to move a few things around, because obviously ornaments and ribbon and the other things I'm putting on will fill up some of the space. So next step that I like to do is to work on the tree topper. And one of the reasons I like to do the tree topper at this point is because it's going to give the tree an overall sense of the scale and size of it. And so I think it's important to do before I start filling in with other things. Now, one of the reasons I chose a 7-foot tree for this space is because the ceilings are about 8 feet right here, and I wanted to leave myself plenty of room to have things kind of coming up. So my favorite type of tree topper is to have a combination of bows and sprays with items that kind of explode out of the top. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 3 bows that I made with this kind of crushed velvet ribbon. I'm going to put 3 bows about there around the tree to kind of form a bow circle, and then I'm going to take several different types of picks and stems. So depending on the size of your tree, depends on how many different types of picks and stems you might want to use. One of the things that you want to do though is you do want to use at least 3 different types of picks and stems to make sure that you're getting a variety of heights and visual weights and potentially colors in there. For this one, I've got 5 different types of stems, and I have 3 of each item. So that's going to be 15 things to go with inside the 3 bows that I'm going to be putting at the top. Now, to fix these up there, I'm going to use pipe cleaners. So I've got pipe cleaners in several different colors, but probably I'm going to use the brown, and I'm going to put these up and kind of tie these tightly together so that way I can keep everything nice and secure, so when I'm messing with the tree, they don't move or fall or anything like that. Now that I've got the stems all wired together, I'm going to set this on the top and wire this onto the tree itself with some more pipe cleaners. Sorry you missed seeing me actually fluff and put the bows up there. Unfortunately, when I panned up so you could get a better view, lost focus. But that's basically what I did, is I just fluffed the bows, tied each one at a time around in a circle. And we'll come back and tweak and straighten and pull things out and make sure that this looks great, but it's a great foundation and it gives me an idea of the scale of everything, which is really what I need now. What I like to do next is to put on any of the garland, ribbon, other types of fillers like picks that I'm going to use to give the tree some fullness. So for this tree, I've got a couple of different picks that I'm going to use. I'm going to take some of the red berries that I used in the tree topper, and I'm also going to intersperse them throughout the tree. And then I've got a few of these pine cones. So I'm going to sprinkle those throughout the tree. And then I'm also going to take ribbon and I'm going to weave it in and out of the tree. So I've got 3 different types of ribbon that I'm going to use. I've got more of the velvet ribbon that I used for my bow up there. And then I have a couple of burlap ribbons to help tie in to some of the picks and stems that I have up top. So the length doesn't really matter as much as long as it's at least a couple of feet long, because a lot of times I'm not trying to go for necessarily a solid piece of ribbon that you see the whole length of it throughout the tree. Like I said, I like to tuck it in and then come back out. And so whatever length that I have, I can use scraps. I'll just be able to tuck in and pull out wherever I need. I am going in a little bit of a zigzag pattern with it. I'll now move on to the burlap. And for these, I'll probably start them at different spots on the tree and work them in some different directions, so there's a little bit of a randomness to it. It's not random because I'm doing it on a planned basis, but it's supposed to look random. Now I have all of the filler kind of stuff on, and the tree is finally starting to come together. I know it looks a little bit less than impressive kind of in the early stages, as it doesn't look very full, and you know, there's gaps and things, but really this is the stage that for me I feel like it's starting to come together. So now we're finally to the fun part, which is adding the ornaments. And so for me, I like to use lots of balls because balls also create good filler and they're really inexpensive. So I will put a lot of balls on the tree in different colors, different sizes, different materials, and then I will add my more unique special ornaments. So for balls, I've got several different types. This is just a kit that I picked up from Amazon that has balls all in the same size but in different finishes in the same color, and so that gives me some interesting texture. So what I'll do is I'll go through with these balls and add them all at one time since they're the same color, and then I'll move on to more balls. And so here's another set that I got from Amazon that has balls in different colors, different textures, etc. And I'll keep working my way through that. And then I also have some balls that are a little fancier. So these actually have fake snow glued to them, so they continue to help with that winter woodland theme. And then I have some balls that are even fancier still. Also, I am going to make sure that I get balls inside the tree coming out, so that gives me some good depth. That'll also fill some of the bald spots where you might otherwise be able to see through to the other side of the tree. Once I get all of that done, I will add some of my more special ornaments, and I don't actually have a lot of the special ornaments, and I call these special because they're the ones that you pay for individually rather than in a set, so per ornament they're a lot more expensive. But I don't really have that many different ones because I use so many balls, then I don't need to fill up that much. All right, now I've got all of the ornaments on, and so I've gone ahead and taken the time now to put the tree in its final place. I had pulled it out more out here just so I could get all the way around it. And I've also taken the chance to survey the tree and see how everything's looking and how it's come together. And I've done a little bit of tweaking, especially with the tree topper and with the ornaments, and gone ahead and filled in with the remaining little stalks of flocking that I had. So now the last step is to complete the tree, and that is by adding the tree skirt and any adornments or things that I want down on the ground. I always like to have a tree with something at or underneath it and not just a bare tree skirt. So because I decorate with 5 trees, I don't get presents under all of them. So I buy things that help me be able to have things to visually fill up the space underneath the tree. But for a tree skirt, I'm going to use this green blanket, and I did think this was a great opportunity just to share. Don't feel like you have to always use a tree skirt. You can definitely think outside of the box. So last year, because I pulled this tree together kind of last minute and I didn't really want to spend a lot of money, I didn't really even look for a tree skirt. Sorry about that. I didn't realize my SD card had gotten full and it had cut me off mid-sentence. But what I was saying before I decorated the underneath of the tree is that I used the blanket last year and I loved it so much that I decided I wanted to be sure and use that every year. But in addition to using blankets, there are a lot of other things that you can use for a tree skirt. You can repurpose towels, sheets. I even have a tree where I found some beautiful upholstery fabric that I found on clearance and was able to get enough of for less than $10 to make a gorgeous tree skirt that I just kind of gather around. And trust me, something similar would be well over like $50 from like Front Gate or something. And so you can definitely find other things to repurpose. So just think a little bit outside the box. But in addition to the tree skirt, I also like to decorate the bottom of the tree because I don't like to have a bare tree. I don't like it to be just plain underneath. After I've spent all this time putting all these decorations on, it would look weird not to have anything at the bottom of the tree. So for this one, I have a trio of these fir topiaries or trees that I got inexpensively from Amazon, and so they just help carry out some of the same themes of the tree down at the bottom. I have this gorgeous Santa, really does match the colors and the theme of the tree as well. And then the last thing that I have are this trio or family of deer that once again just help pull out that winter woodland theme, great colors, and then they're the animal theme. I'll now provide a good shot just panning in a little bit from bottom to top of the tree so you can get a better feel and a better sense of the tree and see it up a little bit more closely. You've enjoyed my video on how to take a regular green tree and turn it into a rustic winter woodland themed tree, including how to make it look flocked. I really do love how this tree came out this year. I think I actually like it more than even last year. I hope you like this tree too. If you do, or if you found this video helpful, then please be sure to give me a thumbs up. Also, I hope you'll consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. I do plan to post at least a couple more holiday related videos this season, so I'd love to have you back so you can enjoy those too. Also, what do you plan to do for decorating this year? I'd love to hear, so be sure to leave me a comment and let me know that. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a very happy holiday season, and until next time, bye.